Hi, my name is Denise Hall, and I am the clinical coordinator for the Department of Rehabilitation Counseling here at VCU. And I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the continuing ed program we have in addictions. So what I thought about is I'd tell you a little bit about who I am first and my background. So I am a graduate of the rehabilitation program many moons ago in 1992, and have been in the field of either treating addiction or working in the education part for the last 25 years. What I have learned over that time has been extensive and certainly brought me to the point that I am at now. When I think back about my experiences, I started off in my internship, actually in graduate school, working in a 28-day inpatient residential setting for addiction treatment. Throughout the years, I've worked in mandated groups, I've worked in intensive outpatient, I've worked in partial programs, all that treated addiction and people with co-occurring disorders. And during that time as a clinician, one of the things that kept sort of coming up for me is I would read research studies, I would take them in as best as I could without an advanced statistics degree, and I would go, this is really good information. How is it that I apply it to my practice like here and now? And so I found myself in that dilemma several times. I would be very energized. I'd go to great conferences, great trainings, and I'd have really good information. And then it was like, but how does this work in the real world? So over time, I had the opportunity to be involved in a clinical trial when I worked for a local community service board here in Virginia. And in that clinical trial, I had the experience of working with researchers, and I had that experience of the research being done in a community treatment program, sort of in real life with real problems and all the things that went along. And that opened my eyes to this whole idea of the knowledge, skills, and abilities that we need to become addictions counselors is all right there. It's sort of like the meeting of the minds had to come together. So in that learning process as a clinician, that's shortly after is when I switched over to the education side, because I was like, wow, there's so much to know, but how do we get that to people in a manner where they can start using it the very next day? Well, lucky for me, I had the experience to come in contact with the Addiction Technology Transfer Center, which I worked with for years. And the main focus was the translation of research to practice. So in my time at VCU and my time in the rehab counseling program, one of the things that has sort of coincided with some things going on in Virginia with national addiction issues and just workforce capacity is this is something we really need right now. We need a system, we need a process where we're bringing high quality research and what it means to be able to walk right into practice. So that also means not just practice for counselors, but anybody who comes in contact with someone who has an addiction. So police officers, social workers, hospital administrators, dentists, doctors, pharmacists. So what are the things that we really need to know? So as a community, we are addressing this. And what are some of the myths out there that we really need to dispel in this time? So what I hope for going forward is for this program, the continuing ed program, we're developing right now 220 hours of training, which would be the training that you needed to get your CSAC in Virginia if you wanted it, but more so you can also take different classes, different pieces, depending on where you are in the process. So if you're a doctor who said, you know what, I really need to know more about trauma-informed care, you could take that module. If you're a law enforcement officer who said, I'm going into some of the crisis stuff, what are the things I need to know about with people with co-occurring disorders? So we really had the approach here of sort of all comers, everybody's welcome at the table, and that we hope that we can sort of facilitate those conversations that need to happen both at a regional level, a state level, but also a national level on how all the people who addiction touch, which is really everybody, how do we all come together in a way that makes sense and where we can move things forward? So the sort of tenets that lead what we're trying to do is, first of all, we want to give accurate information. So there's lots of information out there. There's a lot of opinions out there on what addiction is or isn't. we also want to make sure that we don't just focus on the devastating parts of addiction, because those are the ones that we hear about in the news. Those are the ones we see. And while they are very real, for the people who are caught in that situation, we also want to make sure that we are sending the message recovery is possible. Wellness is out there. The resilience that has gotten you this far can also move you forward. And for the families of those people who deal with addiction, I mean, that's actually how I came to be in the field. I had a family member who was dealing with addiction, and so I certainly know firsthand some of the impacts and some of the things that go along with that, but also for the families to understand that wellness and recovery is an option both for them and their person that they're concerned about. So I hope that you will try us out, try one of our classes out. We will have a free What is Addiction class for you to be able to view, and I look forward to seeing you in classes.